And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again for a news review. And it's been forever since we had David Atherton on. As I bumped into him about a month ago, I thought, David, you need to come on again. So thank you, David, for your time today.
My third visit, I think.
It is going well, all good so far. So, but anything could happen in this interview, so we'll see. But no, all good so far. And of course, follow David at David Atherton 20. Make sure and follow him on X for so much information. He's similar, I think, to David Vance. Sometimes I have guests on and they don't post that much. Other times I have guests on and they post a lot. And David certainly is in that category. So you'll never be short of material if you're following what he has been putting up. So let's see the first one, actually, just for the viewers and listeners. Let me just say something internally. Thanks so much for your support. You can thank many of you give like $5 a month or $10 a month. You can do that through Donor Box or Give Send Go. So really appreciate that. All your support means we can bring amazing people like David Atherton on. Not that he charges a fee. So
Well, you told me the check was in the post.
I was going to say that. No, haven't got to that level yet, but soon and very soon. But the first story is really this big story of the last year, and that is Lucy Connolly. There's so many different stories we could put up. This was from the Daily Mail. Lucy Connolly is pictured for first time since release from prison. Tory councillor's wife is seen enjoying freedom and walking her dogs after 10 months behind bars for a racist tweet. And she was on Dan Wootton yesterday. I think I watched all of it, actually. An hour with Dan, really good. But David, maybe for the US viewers who may not be 100% sure who Lucy Connolly is, I know you commented yesterday about her having contact with White House officials. Maybe fill in the viewers who may not be following Lucy's story.
Yeah, sure. Second generation migrants, Axel Rudakabana, stabbed to death 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift themed party. They were aged between 7 and 11 years of age. And also another 20 other little girls around that age were stabbed as well. And Lucy Connolly, in reaction to it, sent out a tweet which was, you've got to say, it was, to be balanced, relatively incendiary. She was calling for the asylum hotels to be burnt down for all I care. If that makes me a racist, so be it. For that, she was sentenced to 31 months in jail. You know, under America's First Amendment, that would not even be an arrestable offence. And she is seen in this country as a former political prisoner, like you might have got in Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union or in China today. Because your views are antithetical to the regime, you have to go to jail for that. There's also a guy called Wayne Couzens, who the worst thing he said in his tweet was he condoned the burning of cars, and he's serving 3 years for that. And again, it would not be an arrestable offence in America. If you really want me to get to the point, Lucy Connolly has been doing a round of interviews yesterday with us and Pearce of the Telegraph and Dan Wootton on his Outspoken programme. Do catch up with them. Alison Pearson, Double L and Alison, and Dan Wootton, Outspoken. I got some fantastic content, full interviews with her. And in fact, Lucy Connolly was asked by Alison Pearson, do you see yourself as a political criminalist? And she said, absolutely, and I'm not the only one. I feel such a dirty Brit at the moment. Yeah. My loyalties lie with Trump and Vance than they do with Keir Starmer. You could even call me a traitor in some respects, but I'm sorry, that's how I feel. America's leading the way, but no fear, America. Britain is fighting back. I'm fighting back. And let me also say there was another outrageous arrest yesterday. I don't really see it. A guy who's a citizen journalist with Vox Populi. He went to a migrant hotel and filmed what was going on inside. And he ate a bowl of chicken pasta. the police turned up his house yesterday, 10 of them, 5 in riot gear, ready to bash his front door down. And he lives with his disabled mum. He was taken away, arrested, taken into custody. He's been charged with burglary. You know, it just beggars belief. And then you had that migrant down at the Britannia Hotel in Docklands, in the city. It's in the city of London. It's our Wall Street area these days. And he entered the home of a blind 80-year-old woman. Luckily, his niece was cleaning the place and chased him out. And the police stopped him. They didn't even bother to arrest him. They just took him back to his hotel like a bloody taxi service. They had no charges, and I believe he was taken to a different hotel to get him out of the area. You know, this is how outrageous it is. Lucy Connolly, let's go back to Lucy Connolly. Lucy Connolly will be the downfall of Keir Starmer and the Labour, and hopefully the Labour government. You know, Pete, have you seen my face is creasing up at the moment in anger at the moment. Pete, you know, this country is in a tinderbox. And the other thing as well, that which may well be happening soon, I pray it doesn't. There is chatter of ISIS terrorist attacks. We've let in so many Channel migrants, and probably 5%, 10% are absolutely ISIS, Al Qaeda, Islamist headbangers. And there are, and to back me up, at least a quarter of the schools in this country have received instructions what to do in the face of a terrorist attack. And I gave you the case of Southport, where Ridicabana, butchered 3 girls and attacked all the other people as well. This could well be happening nationwide in this country. Now, Britain will become the new Israel, surrounded by militant Muslims who wish us harm.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
No, it's a huge concern. I share your concern 100%, David. Let's do some stories around this attack on free speech, and maybe this is a few on the US angle, because I think it's key, and the pressure coming from the US. This was from InfoWars, exclusive. US set to sanction key staff at UK speech regulator. A senior official at the US State Department is set to sanction key personnel of the UK's main regulator of internet broadcast and telecoms, which is Ofcom, for infringing on US citizens and US companies. They're talking about travel restrictions, I guess banning anyone from traveling to the US if they are part of Ofcom. Again, this is the US applying pressure, and I just hope and pray that some of that pressure gives results.
Well, yes, absolutely. By the way, Ofcom in this country are informally known as Ofcommunist, and if you like your conspiracy theories, the CEO of Ofcom is the usual guest of the World Economic Forum, and so anyway. So yeah, it's a very depressing time at the moment. I think Ofcom, I think Keir Starmer and his Labour government and Ofcom are bitten more off than they can chew. I've got to be careful because I think I've got some inside information on this as well. So I've got to be very careful what I say. Actually, I don't want to put some people in the poo. But my understanding is that there will be a major federal case in America. Where if Ofcom go, I think Ofcom provisionally fined 4chan £20,000. That's about $30,000, $30,000, and there's going to be daily penalties on that. My understanding as well is that 4chan will refuse to pay those penalties. We would probably give Ofcom the option to block 4chan being broadcast in Britain. Although, if you got a VPN like what I got, I'm now actually speaking to you from Los Angeles at the moment.
But it's so funny because I think the government, they were telling citizens, no, you're not allowed to use VPNs. There was a statement a week ago. I think, wow, it's not for you to tell us how, but it will be we in the UK will be like North Korea or China, having to use VPNs to access the news the government hasn't approved.
Well, exactly. It's a very, very slippery slope. Let me give you an analogy from history. The Online Safety Act, which is what is all behind this, it's under the guise of we're trying to protect children. I have no problems with protecting children and things like that. I've got no problems with it. Where are the bloody parents in this? Who should be supervising their teenagers? But that's a different argument. But also as well, one of the things that was blocked on my buy Ofcom was information on rape gangs. Surely every 13, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, 14-year-old girl should know about Pakistani rape gangs. If you can't educate young people in something like that, foul language, pornography, of course. But when it comes to important information that's going to young people, I think that should be exempt.
I agree. Here's another angle on this, and this was, I hadn't actually seen it, and Bernie had mentioned to me, and I had the privilege of interviewing her about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. This was in the New York Post.
Yeah.
And this is why it's interesting, the US angle on this. And UK free speech crackdown sees up to 30 people a day arrested for petty offences such as retweets and cartoons. That was the headline. The picture underneath is the actual physical copy. And they had I love this title, Britain Faces a Speech Crime Crisis. I mean, kudos to whoever wrote that statement, because that is exactly, it sums up the position in the UK. But maybe Bernie, someone who was arrested again for... It's termed the information the government doesn't approve as correct. Do you want to mention about what happened to Bernie in that case?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, funnily enough, I've got a story about this one as well. I was actually the first person in Britain, relatively high profile, who was threatened with arrest for an ex post. Basically, it said F Hamas, F Palestine, F Islam, and I was threatened with arrest for that. And I was under threat of arrest. I had to go to a police station, and this was now 18 months ago. I was too embarrassed to put it on the X to admit that I'd done it. So that's the reason I went under the radar for it. Yeah, Bernie. Again, we're going back to the Southport incident, whereby she put out a speculative ex post that she garnered the information from Telegram. It was wrong. That it was an ISIS terrorist, and and what have you. Although I can probably exclusively reveal to your listeners and viewers that Axel Obama could have been an Islamic convert. Mm. What he's definitely known is that he had an Al Qaeda manual to make a poison, ricin poison. I'm told by more than one source that he attends on Fridays a Muslim religious gathering, and also and this is genuinely not known. Some of the victims of families of Southport got in touch with me directly, and it's some of the stuff I can tell you. It's unprintable, for want of a better phrase. But one of the things they did say was about Rudy Cabana. They took the chemical they thought was ricin to Portland Down for analysis, and in and around the 11th of August, it was confirmed to be ricin, and the chief constable of Merseyside Police wanted to, I think her surname's Kennedy. She wanted to describe it as a terrorist. Describe it as a terrorist incident. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, overruled her, and they've kept it quiet ever since. It was terrorism, possibly Islamic, and not people in the country and the world know about it. I don't have definitive proof, but I do have different sources that confirm the same thing, and some facts are I can back up 100%.
Wow. I kind of think of Stella Creasy, Yvette Cooper, and Jess Phillips, Witches of Eastwick kind of comes into my mind when I think of them. But there's one other story just on the US, because, again, this is key, and you had mentioned about Lucy talking to White House, and that's the only way we're going to get pressure. And this is the outcome of some of that pressure. JD Vance forced UK to drop demand for backdoor access onto iPhones. Sadly, not for my Android device, but that's an interesting move. I know. Home Office agrees to withdraw order seeking to force Apple to break its device encryption. And this was all about a backdoor so the government could, I guess, keep us all safe and check up on us. But
Safe?
But again, the US said, no, US company, you're not doing that. And they were forced to back down.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. No, I think Tulsi Gabbard had something to do with this as well. So let's hand out all the plaudits to all the people in America as well. Well, I think it's probably fair to say that Keir Starmer, as Prime Minister of Britain, has done more U-turns than the NASCAR driver. That's one down. That's one victory. I'm pretty sure the Online Safety Act will crumble before his very, very eyes. And I really do wish the Americans the best on this one. Again, I go back to the fact of cheering on the Americans rather than standing up for my own country. Obviously, the bottom line here is the establishment, the swamp, as we call it, the blob. Has lost the narrative now. Now we have social media, we have blogs, we have citizen journalists, we have YouTubers, Rumble people. They completely lost the narrative, and we can fact check them 24/7, 365, and even 366 on a leap year. What really staggered me is that amongst the youngsters in their 20s, they get most of their news from the internet, rather than the main channels like BBC, Sky, and ITV in Britain. It's been an absolute revolution. I think you said you get at least 100,000 viewers on this channel. That is more than the BBC News. No, that is more than it's probably more than the BBC and Sky News put together. I think your biggest rival these days is GB News, and guess what they do? They actually cater for their audience rather than tell them what they should know. So this is revolution, and obviously the reaction to it has been a crackdown, and the most egregious thing is the intimidation and the use of the police forces, counter-terrorism, and also the secret services to suppress what is going on in this country. It could be a conspiracy theory. It could be my paranoia. And I once said to policemen, I was approached, I said, I really don't want any trouble here. My name is David Atherton. This is my telephone. If you have any trouble, give me a shout. I'll try and sort it out for you. I'll give you a hand doing it. You got my address. He said, went, tap, tap. Oh, so I have, yeah. So indeed, yeah. So, I'm saying conspiracy theory or coincidence, could be whatever. But when the Online Safety Act came into being, I logged on to my X account. The first thing I do in the morning is log on to X. Apparently, it told me I'd logged it out the previous night. Never, ever do that.
Wow.
So I sent an X post to the police. Did you like my DMs? Susie's nice, isn't she?
This is on, and of course, the Online Safety Act bill, it can be up to 10% of the global turnover. So that puts it into context. You're talking about tens of billions of dollars. That could be the fine, and that's why Gab and Bit should have pulled out, and I'm sure other companies will, unless we see a pushback. But there's no one better on speaking his mind than President Trump. So we'll see what happens. Him coming over next month, and we'll see how that. But here's a video. Again, there's the levels of lunacy that we face in the UK are unbelievable, and maybe the US viewers may think they are just watching some satire here, that we are mocking coming up with stories. Well, here is a video in case you don't believe some of the stories that we put up. This is about how food is now an offensive weapon. Here's 2 minutes. We'll play most of it, but this is what happens when you celebrate English breakfasts.
Got these coming from out of town. We don't even fucking live here, and they're fucking coming out here, arguing for it. Sorry, come on, massive nose in that. Awful sign, aren't we? Where have yous come from? Blackburn. Absolute scumbags, honestly. Do you need subtitles for that camera, lad? Yeah. We want bacon. To be honest, we're talking to all your line. Because
how can you arrest him for saying he likes bacon?
It's from the Wonka side. Oh, to the guy.
Given the Wonka side.
Oh, absolutely. Not good. Did you get this record? Wait, he's fine, Jake. That's an I'm not resisting. I just said, can you let go? What's my film? Andy, walking balls for just because you said you like bacon. I like bacon, mate. It's all on camera. What's the offence? What's the offence? Section 5. And what's that? Public order act. And what's that? You're not allowed to say you like bacon butties around here, lad. Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, so it's anything that might be perceived to be racially abusive.
Wait, listen. A full English breakfast, yeah? What does that consist of?
Well, I'm not just.
So what? Hey,
about the one you did.
So, liking bacon is racially offensive. Do you want to explain that to me, David? Have I missed something?
Well, yes, they're in Dalton under Furness. They're building a mosque, and most of the protesters are standing outside the mosque. And it's desperately short of money, and it's catered for the 0.5% of the population who live in the northwest of England near the Lake District, which is beautiful, by the way. To cater mainly for doctors who work in the local hospitals. Apparently, the cost for it is I think it's like £200,000. It might be a bit more than that, and local people don't want it. Friday, you can't park your car anywhere. There's traffic jams everywhere. Often, not always. I'm sure most of the worshippers and Muslims go there, in the right spirit and good faith. But it normally attracts the nutters. It normally attracts the some of the grooming gang people. I don't know whether you know, but after the Oxford trial in 2013, where 7 Pakistani heritage men were jailed for the most appalling rapes. It wasn't just rape; it was brutal torture. They tortured the girls as well. And there's a guy called Imam called Dr. Taj Hargay. He said the imams at the mosques actually encouraged the young men to go out and rape the young ladies because they were wearing sleeveless tops and short skirts. And the phrase he used was, "They deserve to be degraded." So there are, I say, the vast majority of people who go to a mosque go there in good faith and are peaceful people, but there's always that minority who are absolute scum. But anyway, that's by the by. When we get, if you want the full analysis of the backstory to what is going on here, it's basically Stockholm syndrome. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. The Muslim community, I'd estimate 20% are nutters, 80% are moderate and decent, but the 20% have far more influence over the moderates than And so
what you had the most vocal.
Yeah, exactly. The extremist Tao whacks the moderate dog.
Yeah,
it's the reason why so few moderate Muslims have spoken up against grooming gangs and their culture and their behaviour of a lot of Pakistani Muslims in this country. Now, because they're so aggressive and because they're so potentially violent, The government is absolutely scared of them. I think of another word there for a second. And by the way, this work is not mine. It's mostly the work of Douglas Murray, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, quoting him at the moment, and Tommy Robinson as well. And because they know, and there's also a phrase in Britain called two-tier policing, two-tier justice, whereby if you're white and are BAME allies, are dealt with in a far more harsher way than the Muslims in this country. That's called two-tier justice, and the left, by the way, as well, two-tier justice, two-tier policing. And what happens is the government is if they applied the law equally in this country to everybody, notwithstanding religion, ethnicity, or whatever, the Muslims would create civil unrest. I've heard the phrase rioting, and if you look at the work of David Betts, Professor David Betts, who's a professor of modern urban warfare at King's College University, we could be on the verge of civil war. And so the government, like Stockholm Syndrome, is adopting the opinions and the views of your captors. So the government is treading on eggshells to appease the Muslim lobby in this country and keep them happy. It's why Starmer wants to recognise Palestine. It's why he's trying to bring in this Islamophobia law, which will be bitterly fought against. Basically, it's an attempt to shut down all criticism of Islam and Muslims in this country. So what the government does is, rather than deal with the primary problem, which is militant Islam, they deal with the reaction. That is why Tommy Robinson has been a political prisoner of this country for such a long time. He was jailed for 15 months, I think it was, for contempt of court, which is a civil offence. Let me give you a quick example of how contempt of court works in Britain. There was a murderer called Levi Belfield, and he was standing trial for the murder of Millie Dowler, and he was found guilty of a previous offence, and the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror printed out those offences in a column, and they were found because the trial was coming up. They were found in contempt of court. That obviously wouldn't be allowed in America or happen in America. Indeed, they were just merely fined £14,000 each. Tommy Robinson gets 15 months. A Daily Mirror get fined £14,000. It's totally disproportionate. So what I'm saying is, the people they go after are not the people who are doing the gang raping, who are preparing their their ricing attacks. They're going after the people who object to it, and hence my potential arrest for saying F Islam. So this is the way the police forces in this country, they've been made to be woke by what's called the College of Policing, who get guidance on their behaviour. And the very fact that, if someone said to me, I like a certain food, excuse me, I can't think of an example at the moment. If someone said, would I be offended? No, I wouldn't. And and the point is, even if you are offended, so what? That's the whole point of free speech. Free speech is never hate. The offence is never given; it's always taken, and particularly with the Muslim community in this country.
No, it's and it's that act that anything that you say that may be offensive, which is, as you say, so subjective. Here's the final completely crazy story, and then we'll get on to a few of the other that we probably come to accept. And this is how councils tearing down England flags. That didn't come up. Let me try that again. How councils tearing down English flags. And we have a situation where all across parts of the country, started in East London, with the council taking them down. And this has now sparked a huge campaign to actually put our flags up and celebrate our culture. And David, I find this weird, coming from Northern Ireland, where there are flags everywhere. every lamppost has either a tricolour or a Northern Irish flag or a Union Jack. So to me, when I came to London 23 years ago, I found it strange that people actually didn't celebrate their flag in the way that I saw it as normal back in Northern Ireland. And this is I mean, it's not just a Labour issue. It's actually throughout every government that we don't seem to celebrate our flag except at sporting events. But to think that the council are paying people to go and remove the flag of the nation is it's just blows you away. And I'm sure no American watching this would even contemplate that was acceptable.
Indeed, yes. It's called the Marxist Long March Through the Institutions. The whole of the establishment, the swamp, the blob, as we call it again, the whole of the establishment is now anti-English and anti-British. The most nasty one is anti-English. We are made to feel ashamed of our culture. We are made to feel ashamed of our history. And we really should roll over and admit that we are the world's nastiest nation that ever existed. Not Nazi Germany, not the Soviet Unions. Yeah, all the Chinese Communist Party today. Not the Ottoman Empire, not the Aztec Empire. We are uniquely evil as British. And despite the fact, yes, we were involved in slavery, but of course we were the first nation to actually stop the damn thing, and we spent blood and treasure trying to stop it worldwide. 1807, we stopped the transportation of slaves. 1833, we stopped the ownership of slaves, and it was a debt we didn't pay off until 2015.
Yeah.
So you can't say we weren't committed to the cause. It's just the way this country has gone when it comes to free speech and the way things on the flags. No, it's just absolute. Getting beggars belief what we have to endure, what we have to put up with. By the way, the flashpoint for these flags at the moment is Tower Hamlets. Yeah. It's a London borough just to the east of London, where my gran was born in 1906. My late grandmother was born in 1906, and it's now taken over by mainly from people from Bangladesh.
Your gran wouldn't have recognised it.
No. What my dad said about immigration is not repeatable. But that's by the by. And it's run by a corrupt, I can use the word corrupt because he was done for electoral corruption, Lutfur Rahman. He was born in Bangladesh. And soon after the atrocities on the 7th of October in Israel, Palestinian flags started appearing all over his borough and elsewhere in the country. And there's a guy called John, he's a Scottish guy. He lived just off of Bethnal Green Road. And he went out and he made a video. It was saltily worded. He did use the C word and the S word and things like that. And he made this video and he put it on Facebook, which then went viral on social media. Criticising the Palestinian flags that festoon the borough. Next day he was woken up at 4 a.m. by the police and arrested for showing his distaste of the Palestinian flags. And to this very day, those Palestinian flags still fly in the London borough of Tower Hamlets. It's also now informally known as Tower Hamas. But anyway, it's by. And when British and British people started putting up England and Union Jack flags, that they were immediately torn down. Many have had a police escort to do their job. You have to say that Lutfur Rahman is anti-British. He's a member of the Ummah, which means the Worldwide Brotherhood of Islam. His first loyalty is to Islam. His first loyalty is to this country. He is a traitor. He should be deported.
Yeah, and he's been done for corruption even on that simple level. So why was he allowed to stand? But yeah, he is the mayor of the lovely part of London that is now.
He was barred for 5 years, and he did. But the $64,000 question on that one is, why did not the police ever prosecute him?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. Was this was a great story about hotels being used for housing illegal migrants or asylum seekers, and you put up the High Court ruled asylum hotels are illegal because they're being used as hostels. And the Bell Hotel, which has been the center of some of these demonstrations, has to move the illegals out by 12th of September. This was the council doing this, and now the Labour government are in disarray because they don't know where they're going to put all these people, and this could start a chain reaction. But I get a great story, and I was surprised that the courts actually ruled this way.
Well, I'm surprised as well. I think political correctness and wokery has only creeped into the Crown Court. The High Court is a little bit more objective and what have we. The Old Bailey, the statue that sits on top of the Old Bailey, which is the Crown Court, has a blindfold because she's meant to be blind to to all injustice. So no, I think the High Court probably called it on the legislation, and the rules are fairly clear. You cannot use a hotel as a hostel. If you put them in there for 2 or 3 days, you probably get away with it, or maybe a couple of weeks if you must. But now they are there permanently. I'm sorry. I think the High Court called it right. By the way, unfortunately, the government is appealing it. But anyway,
with our money.
Yeah, I know. Don't start me off on that one, Peter. I just pray the appeals court comes up with the right decision, which theoretically they should stick with the original decision. But whatever, this is really going to put Keir Starmer and the Labour government in a very, very difficult position, because two or three things will happen. The Labour, what will happen is the councils that are reform and conservative will obviously get rid of all their asylum hotels, then they'll be concentrated in Labour areas, which means that's not going to be popular with the Labour voters, and that's going to make Keir Starmer even more unpopular. And this also gives the spectre, and I pray this is true, is, well, welcome to your new accommodation. You do get a sleeping bag with your tent. But the outrageous thing in this country, Britain is one of the most concentrated, densely populated countries in the world, and the property prices in rentals and price of property is absolutely astronomical in this country. And because we've got so many legal and illegal migrants, it's currently running approximately 1 million a year to this country. And if you do it by per capita with America, that's equivalent of about 5 to 6 million new people coming in legally and illegally every year. No, it is unsustainable. The government is completely mad, and so what they are now doing is they're rushing to purchase homes of multiple occupancy, and they've got 20,000 people. They want to fit into 5,000 properties, 5 per house, and that means to say that Serco, the people who are doing it on behalf of the government, are paying well over the market rates to get all this rental property available, and therefore it is completely pricing out young couples and young people from ever renting or ever buying their own place. When the simple thing would be to stop the boats and send them all back to France. And quite frankly, if the French object, if you need a Royal Navy escort, so be it. They're going back. And I see Reform got some interesting plans on that. But anyway, sorry.
No, they do. I just want to bring the other story that's closely linked to this is how Starmer opened the floodgates on asylum claims, record 110,000 in Labour's first year in power, despite PM's pledge to smash the gangs. And they're on the left, showing actually the record number passing its peak of 2002, and really had fallen down to 30,000 or so for a decade and a half, and suddenly has rocked. And they said 1 in 4 of the total asylum claims were made by small boat migrants. So, so much for smash. And the top 5 nationalities for asylum claimants was Pakistani, Afghan, Iranian, Eritrean, and Bangladeshi. Well, though Pakistan, I mean, they could all go to, you know, the grooming gang epicenters, because I mean they seem to participate in those activities up in Rotherham or Rochdale, or so maybe that's an option. I don't know, but it's literally out of control. This.
Yeah, well, Britain has open borders. You know, you fancy coming to Britain, get yourself a job, get yourself some welfare. Britain's the place for you. For the benefit of the American viewers, when an asylum seeker comes to this country, or illegal migrant, as I call them, they are first processed to a place called Manston. We used to be an RAF base during the Second World War. I'm sure the pilots are turning in their graves at the moment. And then they are dispersed to other hotels. And by the way, the Home Office has specified they must be at least a 3-star. We have a 5. Seriously, the Home Office has specified they have to be at least 3-star. We have a sort of starring system for hotels in the UK, where 1 star is a bit of a shithole, and 5-star is your grand luxury hotel. And 3-star.
But David, I specify 5-star and I go away. Sadly, my bank balance rejects that request, so it doesn't work for me.
Absolutely, yeah. And they are fed 3 meals a day, and they have snacks in the afternoon. They're given £50 a week pocket money, and after something like 80% of claims are accepted, then they are given free accommodation. They don't pay any rent. They don't pay any council tax. They don't even pay for their gas and electric energy bills. You know.
Wow, no wonder all those are going up and up in price, because we have to subsidise these poor people.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you know, and I mean, it's easy for me to slag off Keir Starmer, but the Conservatives were in power for 14 years. They had 14 years to fix it as well. You know, this is the Uni Party. Walking in lockstep. You know. So yeah, it is the annual cost. The annual cost of looking after these people to the British taxpayer is £15.5 billion a year. So again, if you extrapolate per capita to America, that will be somewhere in the region of $75 or $80 billion a year for illegal migrants. You know, actually probably a bit more than that. You know, probably 100 billion. Actually, thinking about it, if you extrapolate it like that, because of the exchange rate. You know, this is the madness that we have, and probably there can be no misunderstanding why people in this country are so angry and why we are living in a tinderbox at the moment. You know, it's one major incident, and I pray it doesn't happen. I hope everyone stays within the rule of law. But I'm sure there's one major incident may spark something off and be a catalyst. And Keir Starmer will have to go sooner or later.
No, he will. Well, this is obviously one of the reasons why people are getting very angry, and we see this repeated. I think there was a week where there was more or less a story a day on this, going by maybe 2 weeks. But Adnan Khan was originally accused of trying to communicate and kidnap 10 schoolgirls, eventually pleaded guilty to harassment and 2 charges of sexual communication with a child. Newcastle Crown Court jailed him for 15 months. Lucy Connolly, who he opened the show with, got 31 months for a tweet. So sexually harassing children is regarded as half as bad as putting out a stupid tweet. That kind of, I think what you put up here perfectly illustrates the 2-tier system we have.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And not forgetting Hugh Edwards, a BBC presenter, who had his hard drive stuffed with images of child sexual abuse. He was given a suspended sentence, which means to say that he never served any jail time. So, so this is the state of Britain at the moment. This is the state of play. This is the conditions we live under in this country, where we're basically we are set. White people and their BAME allies, ethnic minority allies. We're treated as second-class citizens. It is open racism towards us, I think, now. Whilst there are certain protected groups that get the key clubs, like Ricky Jones. He was, if we're going to implement, anti-free speech law, Ricky Jones said, it was around the Southport riots. He said, when it comes to the Nazis and the fascists, we want that to happen to them.
Yep.
That, to my mind, was a clear incitement to violence, if not murder. And and by today's standards, he deserved to go to jail. In my opinion, he was let off. He was found not guilty, not a stain on his character.
And of course, he not like Lucy Connolly, where she was kept, and therefore you got all the panic of being held, the confusion, knowing what's happening. Your mind is everywhere. Where actually Ricky he was out, so he could time to plan, and he was at home. Again, very different. One is to induce fear and force something. Another is to allow the time to recuperate, respond, and do what you want. And two very different approaches.
I get proper legal advice, kind of thing. I probably strongly suggest the duty solicitor was a bit naughty. So I think their advice was pretty bad. Oh, by the way, top tip. Even if you face going to jail on remand for accept it. Do not ever plead guilty or plead, let's say indicate that you're going to plead guilty. Fight your case. Certainly on free speech grounds and certainly on guilt grounds. Lucy Connolly got 31 months. I can't see in a month of Sundays she would have got 31 months with a jury trial.
No.
And I believe that there were six people who didn't were not put in front of kangaroo courts, and five of the six got off. So that's right. And by the way, we mentioned Bernie Spofforth here. Such a nice lady. She's so sweet. Anyway, and apparently full marks to the Free Speech Union. She, which I'm a member of. I just renewed my gold membership with them.
I saw that.
I can spot a good investment when I see it, and the Free Speech Union have helped me out, and funny enough, in libel actually. So let me name and shame both and Annie. You failed miserably, you useless Green MP in Hare Hills. Buddy Spofforth, the Free Speech Union barrister. It wasn't a solicitor. A barrister is an advocate in court, and a solicitor is a legal advocate behind the scenes. And Free Speech Union dispatched a barrister and quoted all the relevant acts to the superintendent and said, "You have no right to keep her, mate, under the case law." And she was actually no further action on it. She walked away absolutely nothing. That's nothing against her. So guys, if you're in Britain or you're an American who's coming over to Britain, do check out the Free Speech Union. They are absolutely fantastic. Apparently they're dealing with 300 cases every day.
Wow. And I think two of the greatest heroes that we have in the UK are Toby Young, now Lord Toby Young, who started Free Speech Union, and Alison Pearson, the absolutely courageous journalist throughout COVID and now throughout this tyranny. We'd be in a much worse situation without those two in the UK.
Absolutely.
Two other stories. Let me bring last one on immigration side and then something completely different. This is which nationalities commit the most violent sexual and theft offences. You look at the UK in terms of the violence. I mean, those from Congo are heading up that table 10 times the amount of violence per group per 110,000 than the UK. And then look at the bottom one, and it's Afghanistan 10 times more pervy, seemingly, than the UK. The level of growing violence, the level of growing sexual assaults, and this really puts it into perspective, into the picture. It sets the scene that this seems to be linked to mass immigration, and yet the government's head's in the sand. But this was a great graphic, David, that you came across and put up.
Absolutely, yes. There's also other research which suggests that Afghanistani men are 22 times more likely to be involved in sexual assault.
And these hotels could be beside schools, anywhere. Who knows?
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Let me illustrate what a nasty, misogynist, anti-women hating society Afghanistan is. When the Taliban were doing their thing against the Americans, there were some Afghan women who got bullet wounds and shrapnel wounds. They went to the hospital to get treatment, and they were turned away because there were only male doctors available.
Wow. Sick.
Yeah. Afghan women can't go out on their own without their guardian's permission. It might be husband or father. They can't intermingle with men at all in any sense, and they have to go out dressed in a burqa. There's also a case whereby a 17-year-old boy spoke to a 16-year-old girl on a mobile phone. The Taliban found out, and he was brutally tortured for 2 days, and they inserted a stick up his rectum for talking.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. The Afghan society is intrinsically misogynist.
Yeah.
And when they come over here, it's an absolute culture shock where women are treated equally, with respect, within reason. They can wear whatever they like. We're back to the sleeveless dresses and the short skirts again here. Exposing knees and flesh around the shoulders.
Yeah.
They just can't cope with it. I'm told by an Afghan lady friend of mine. She came over here 10 years ago with the 2 kids, and she said that they actually get worse because the women start expecting to be treated a little bit better in this country, that they retreat even more into their Stone Age caveman mentality. And also where this leads on is, if you're not wearing this is the mentality of the Afghan men. If you are if you're not wearing a burqa and you are dressed as a Western woman, a man has every right to rape you, and you have committed no offence.
Wow.
It's a bit like if you throw a bun in a restaurant, you might have done something slightly naughty, but you'll never be prosecuted for it. This is their Islamist mentality that we have to put up with. If there's ever a group of people that are unsuited to live in a Western liberal society, it is them.
And another example, if you look at Iran, you look at the Islamic Revolution 79, what Iran was like, what it's like now, it's completely different country. We've got a few minutes left. Let me bring up this other story about mass fatality, resilience, capability. If I don't know if I've said that right, it was a quick change there of no, the wrong one. No. Well, I'm going to bring that up after. Let me take that. Let me bring up this one, and it's this curious that you said that they're awarded these what do they call them? I don't know even what you call it, but to store fatalities, 450 fatalities.
Morgue, looking for places to keep refrigerated dead bodies. It's a morgue, isn't it, kind of thing?
So it seems as though something is up, and the government are preparing for something, but we're obviously not being told what they're preparing for, what they're expecting.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Again, you can't bring forth any proof. You can't definitively say, this, that, or the other. I mentioned earlier about primary schools being given those lessons in how to deal with a terrorist attack, and this is another sort of a little flag waving above the parapet. The government is now expecting the deaths of possibly even hundreds of people from terrorism. It is absolutely chilling. I think in all they were looking to have 700 people who potentially could their bodies could be preserved in that number. The worst terrorist atrocity in Britain was 7/7/2005, where 38 people died. Good heavens! When three bombs were detonated, one at Edgware Road, one at Aldgate, and the other one was a bus near Holborn. I say only 38. The Manchester Arena bombing in 2017 at the Mariana Grande concert that killed 22 mainly children at the time. To be looking to bury 700 people, that looks to be they're expecting virtually civil war, as Professor David Betts, the Professor of History, has warned us of, and also has been added to by Tim Stanley, the author, historian, and Telegraph columnist. I've always felt this is our destiny, or will be our destiny. I've always couched it as being, I call it civil unrest, because I could be, theoretically in this country, I could be done for incitement for using the phrase civil war. But it now seems to be that there are credible academics that are now commenting on it. I think I'm probably just about safe enough to mention at the moment. But it's been complete madness. We have let in literally millions of people, and you look at the Palestinian crowds on a Saturday afternoon, the pro-Palestine Palestinian crowds. They not only hate Jews, they're not only anti-Semites, they hate everything that the West stands for, and they hate our culture, they hate our flags, they hate everything about this. They're openly hostile to us, and we let these people stay in this country. Yeah. You just can't really sum it up any better than that. And quite frankly, I look upon Britain is facing an existential crisis at the moment. Our land, our country is on the verge of disappearing. But I'll tell you this: like the Battle of Britain and beyond, we're not going down without a fight. If you look at all the protests that are going up and down in this country at the hotels, I'm joining some pro-Israelis after this interview up in Hampstead, and I'm going to be very, very vocal about that. I'll be telling the pro-Palestinians what I think about them. So getting the benefit of my wisdom, as I call it. But this is
it could be the last time you see David on this show.
The Uni Party in Britain, the Conservatives and the Labour, have actually ruined this country. The quality of life is dreadful. Women and girls walk around, scared to death of being attacked by migrants. We have created, and they could have stopped this. They could have stopped this any time in the last 14 years. Any time in the last 14 years. And if I was in charge of this country, it will be sorted out within a month tops. Mostly sorted out within a week. And the first thing we need to do is when we're having Abdul come across the channel, right? Good morning, Abdul. Can I see your passport? No passport is in the sea. See, can I see your documentation? Don't have any documentation. Right, stamp. Asylum declined. Bye. Yep. That's it. If you do not have any documentation, it's under the 1971 Immigration Act. If you don't come in with relevant documentation, you are an illegal immigrant and can be immediately deported. Also, by the way, as well, not many people know this. If under maritime law, you can deport illegal people back to where they came from. So don't give all this ECHR rubbish. There is international treaties that allow us to do that immediately.
And that's what we need to get back to, if only the government used what was available to them. David, we'll draw to close. Really appreciate you coming on, as always. Thanks so much for
always a pleasure.
Giving us your time. And the picture I was just going to show to leave the viewers with, which I brought up by mistake, was that one. David saying, confused message from Soho, rainbow hoops and niqabs, which is an interesting combination that you would only get in Soho and certainly wouldn't get for the gays for Gaza. That would not be allowed. But David, thanks so much, and have a good time up there in North London with the Jewish group today.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Thank you. It's been a complete pleasure.